Hello, Cam followers. It is a surprise. It is a Wednesday and it's 6:30. Sorry that I confused you guys with 6:30. We just don't normally do it this time. But please meet the lovely Nathalie, who's going to come and talk to us today about senior dog fitness. Now, I've known Nathalie for quite a while, actually. She was there right at the beginning of Cam. I can remember you making contact and I was like, oh, there's a lovely lady over in Luxembourg. It's Luxembourg, isn't it?
Yes, correct. Yeah.
Yes. And she's very much like me because you had a very different career before you got into this. What did you do before?
I was in banking. I used to be in banking. Dogs have always been my passion. I wanted to be a vet when I was a kid, and then decided after the first anatomy class that it was nothing for me. So I quit that, and I went into banking direction. And then when my first dog, Jake, got senior, I basically started learning, and that's how I got into rehab for dogs, basically. Yeah.
And then you did the whole retraining. So tell us about yourself, what your training was and where your passion lies.
Yeah. So I'm based in Luxembourg. And so basically, as I said, I worked for about 15 years in banking. And then I retrained. I studied at TCAP in the UK for animal physiotherapist, and basically with dogs. Basically, is my strength, and very much was into when I heard about arthritis, because I did my dissertation on senior dogs specifically and arthritis. So that's how I kind of got into this, and of course my dog having he turned 17 in the end. So I'm totally I went through the entire ups and downs of having a senior dog and what it all means. So I did that, and then I've done I also graduated as a Galen, which I think you did as well, myotherapist.
Yep.
Yes, and I am a certified canine fitness trainer as well.
So that's with the University of Tennessee, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah, perfect.
Yeah.
So basically, Nathalie's going to talk to us a lot about exercising the senior dog because there's a lot of confusion around this area. But first of all, I just want to say a thank you to our sponsor. So this is PitPat. PitPat is in the Cam online shop. Luna wears one. I'm quite into these. They're very affordable activity monitors. So if you're keen to keep an eye on what your dog is up to, how much they're resting, how much they're active, etc., PitPat is a really affordable wearable device, and Luna's in the seat all the time, so it's pretty damn safe. So there you go. I've said my piece. We're being absolutely spammed to hell at the moment, but I'm just going to have to ignore them, I'm afraid. Hopefully one of the Cambassadors will step in and start deleting them. So let's start at the beginning. We've had a little bit of a plan about this, and we're going to go straight in with a really blunt question. Do senior dogs need different exercise requirements? Go for it, Nathalie.
All right. Well, it's very difficult to say what is a senior dog in the sense, the exercise requirements are very much depending on the dog you have in front of you. So, some dogs are senior at 8 years old, some dogs are senior at 10, some dogs are, so it's very difficult to put an age on there. But that being said, yes, it would be good to have a specific exercise requirement or to adapt your fitness or your exercise routine for older dogs. But again, you always need to look at the dog that you have in front of you. Sorry for that. That's mine who's barking.
It's going to be crazy tonight, isn't it? You just feel it.
Probably so fly. All right. Okay.
I'm dealing with the spammers, and you're dealing with the dog.
Right. Sorry for that. So basically, look at the dog that you have in front of you. So, for instance, say a 10-year-old Chihuahua or a 10-year-old Border Collie or a 10-year-old Malinois German Shepherd dog might have different requirements and might be on a different place in what they can do and what their requirements are and how their muscles look like and all. Also, do you have a pet dog? Do you have an old sporting dog? Do you have a working dog who might be maybe bored with their retired life? So you need to really adapt. So it's this question you can't really answer. Yes, you need to
agree.
dogs.
Totally agree.
There you go.
I had an email just before we went live from a vet in the UK. Lovely email saying, hey, you know, have you thought about bringing together like a regime that people with arthritic dogs can follow? And therefore they can kind of like step by step increase exercise, add exercises, all this stuff. No, we can't, because every dog is unique, and a golden retriever at the age of 6 with arthritis in both stifles is going to be very different to a Staffordshire Bull Terrier at the age of 12 with arthritis in elbows, hips, spine. So unfortunately, no. And the same applies to senior dog fitness. I don't think you can say this is an age and this is when everything changes. Do you agree?
Totally. Again, look at the dog in front of you.
Perfect. So what kind of things would be in front of you if you did need to say to yourself, right, actually, I think we're beginning to head towards what we would consider senior. Yeah. What sort of signs would you be looking for that you need to start modifying your activity levels and capabilities?
The dogs might be slowing down. A lot of people will say, no, it's age-related because they sleep more, they slow down, they might have difficulties getting up the stairs, they might have difficulties jumping in a car. If they used to jump in the car, jumping on the sofa, jumping on the bed, maybe trailing behind on the walks rather instead of walking in front of you, wanting to turn back quicker on the walks or just sitting down. Those are some of the signs that they might give. There might be signs of trembling going on in their muscles sometimes, like, they get tired more quickly, or just mentally as well. They might seem a bit depressed, I guess, sometimes, so those are signs, and kind of like, what do you call them? Not shutting down, but maybe not being as interactive as they used to be with you before.
Yeah, definitely. And I was just having a little inner titter because I'm impossible to go out with now, because if we go to the pub, especially now we're all outside because of lockdown, I'm just watching dogs all the time. I can't help it. Totally addicted.
I know.
So you start really picking up on subtle indicators that other people are quite oblivious to. And it might just be hesitation. It might just be the way that they get up from a lie. And it's very, very slight. But you can just see there's a little bit of effort where it used to be so fluid. Or it might be that the owner stands up to go away from the picnic bench where the beer is, because that's where I spend most of my life, in the pub. And the dog, instead of getting up to go with them, like Luna would, they stay sitting down. And things like that. Like if I walk past Luna, she's always up. Where are we going? What are we going to do? And you can just see that there's other dogs. They'll be like, you going? Okay. So this it's quite subtle, and as you watch dogs more and more, you'll start picking up on them. But I think it is worth being really aware and being tuned into what is your dog telling you with regards to how energetic they feel, how much energy, how much enthusiasm, how much they want to go out and exercise. And if that is beginning to change subtly, take heed. But this is quite a leading question, because we really wanted to step in with talking about when to get a vet check. And we're going to just spend a little bit talking about the importance of this. Go for it, Nathalie.
So what I wanted to say is exercise is good. Movement is definitely good. I mean, especially for senior dogs, if you don't use it, you lose it, as they always say. That being said, of course, senior dogs are going to more often have medical issues than younger dogs. Arthritis being one of them, but there could be other issues like diabetes, or there's lots of issues that senior dogs could have. So it is always good, I would say, before you start a change in exercise routine, to get at least talk to a vet or to get a vet check to make sure, and as well, if you see those changes that we just discussed, to talk to a vet about it, to see what's going on and see if, from a veterinary aspect, there's nothing needs to be done or can be,
Yeah. And I think that's really worth just spending a little bit of time talking about. So I'm a vet, so I'm allowed to say all these sorts of things because I can do. There is definitely hesitation with a lot of owners of seeing a vet for fear that they might find something, for fear that it might come with a labor-intensive regime, it might come with a financial cost, etc.
Yeah.
However, it really, really is quite essential that people do embrace the opportunity to have a full clinical exam, because it's one of those things that if I could give everybody a crystal ball who has an arthritic dog, you know, and say, right, if I'd given you this crystal ball 5 years ago and you knew what was going to be coming, would you have done things differently? And I bet a lot of people would have said yes, because I know I would have done. You know, I'm a huge convert to Cam because of the mistakes I made with my dog. You know, I still allowed her to do way too much. And I was very unaware with how many issues she was actually carrying. And so I'm a real, I persevere with telling people, get a check over, get a full clinical exam, get the orthopedic exam, a neurological exam, have a soft tissue exam. You know, even if you might even feel like saying to the vet, hey, I wouldn't mind my dog having a bit of a physio check. You know, we're coming to the senior years. I'd really like to know where I'm at. Muscular balance, you know, have we got any subtle soft tissue injuries that I just need to know about? Now, most people listening are probably going, what? That's just too much. Actually, when you think about it, a lot of these dogs that we see with arthritis have been carrying this disease for years. Okay. Yeah. So the biggest cause of osteoarthritis is developmental joint disease. Developmental joint disease starts when they're young. So this is in the clue, in the title, developmental. It's when they're in their younger years. So that could mean that your dog, who's now showing severe signs of arthritic change, has actually carried that for a very, very long time. So if you then suddenly start ramping up the exercise, going, I want you to have the best years of your life. Oh yeah, we're going to go out. We're going to do stuff. It might not be what the dog wants. So don't neglect getting vet checks. And I would definitely say if you have seen a sudden change in your dog's exercise capabilities, that is a warning. If you suddenly see a dog that was able to do something with ease and suddenly can't, or suddenly don't want to, and that's something sorry, Natalie, I'm stealing time with you.
Totally fine.
This is something that drives me a little bit mad, is because dogs are amazing and they're way better than people, and they will do anything that we ask of them if they can do. So quite often I have owners whose dogs jump into, say, the back of their truck, and they'll be like, but he can do. And I'm like, yeah, but did you not notice he hesitated and he didn't want to? And that's what we should be looking for.
Yeah, it's subtle signs often.
It's very subtle signs, yeah. I know that Luna will do what I ask of her, but I have to just look to see whether she's actually wanting to. So there you go. Right, we've done the vet check. We've ticked that off. Okay, at this point, we can now diverge, can't we? We've had a clean bill of health.
Yeah.
We've got great range of motion in all the joints. We've got no crepitus. We've got a reasonably okay muscle mass. We're reasonably balanced. Mm-hmm. We want to start doing more with this dog.
Yeah.
That's where you come in.
Yes. So exactly. So that's when you can start doing your fitness with the dog. So just one good thing to do as well with senior dogs is to walking. Walking is a very good, it's a fitness exercise. Just standing is a fitness exercise for any dog. It asks much more. Okay, let's go back to standing. Standing, first of all. Getting dogs to learn to stand straight and get them to stand straight and just to stand is a very difficult exercise. Not a lot of dogs can do that, even the younger dogs, because the younger dogs we teach our dogs to sit for rewards. Standing is actually probably a better exercise. So definitely what I always encourage people is to reward your dog for standing straight and standing, a nice top line, straight legs. That's a very good. So that is such already a fitness exercise because they need to, compose their muscle mass and their core. They need to engage their core muscles to keep in a standing position. So
I can prove that point now because I've got a bad back. And when I push my shoulders back and I try and have a nice upright posture, I can't hold it for very long before I start slouching again. Exactly. So, it's actually hard work.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. So standing, totally, because I'm very tall, so I know. Standing is definitely not an easy exercise. Walking as well. I think you said it a couple of times, or probably as well, is especially for senior dogs, walking shorter walks more often is better than one long walk a day. Yes. But walking is a very good exercise for a senior dog. And then going on from there are specific, but we'll go into that in a little bit. There are specific exercises that we can do, which are fun to do.
Should we do my case study for you first? Should we do Rory the Rottweiler?
Rory the Rottweiler, yeah.
Okay.
We're the Rory Rottweiler.
We're going to do Rory the Rottweiler. So Rory the Rottweiler has come into Nathalie's clinic. So Rory is a 10-year-old Rottweiler who's been in a rescue centre, and his new owner is really quite into fitness. She's into being outdoors. She wants this dog to have the best quality of life for the rest of his life. So she's come to see Nathalie saying, well, look, I don't want to go too hard too quick, because he hasn't got great condition. He's been in a rescue centre for a while. I don't know what his previous history is like. What are we going to do? So this is the example, guys. Ready? Yeah. Go for it, Nathalie. What's in your brain?
So saying that Rory is an average roaring 10-year-old Rottweiler, typically dogs tend to lose their muscle mass quicker in the hind legs as opposed to the front legs, because they take a lot of weight in the front legs. So the front legs typically are overworked or work a lot anyway compared to the hind legs. Yeah. So I think a lot of the viewers might see that as we mentioned before, it's the jumping up on stuff or the getting up that is often more difficult for dogs. So I would say as an average, an average dog that doesn't have any specific medical conditions, we would definitely focus on working the hindquarters and the core strength. Yeah. And so again, in addition to what we just said, there are specific exercises that can be done. And then, certain things that need to be taken into account into, when to start or how to often to do an exercise routine. So what is important with senior dogs is to basically take it slow. Yes. Give them enough breaks. So that means if you do different types of exercises, give them breaks between the exercises, and also don't necessarily exercise them every single day. Now, I'm not talking about walks definitely every single day if they feel up to it, but exercising as fitness exercises, give them at least 2 days a week or something, that you take a break and you don't do anything.
Yeah, I think that's good. I think that gives me a really big opportunity to talk about the PRR. I haven't told you about this yet, actually, because you said little and often. And that is a phrase that's used so frequently throughout the vet industry. As the dog's becoming more senior, walk them little and often. And people are like, well, what does that actually mean? Yeah. Now, it's a good starting block, but I've come up with something that I think's maybe even better. So it's proactive, reactive, and reflective, the PRR, because every dog is an individual. So proactive is basically looking at how is your dog now? What are their capabilities? What is what you're asking of them? What is the walk going to be like? What is the exercise going to be like? Think ahead, be proactive about it. Think about what exercises you're doing on your walk. Reactive is be observant when you're walking. So there's a real tendency for us all nowadays to get our mobile phones out. I'm absolutely scared that a cam follower will see me walking Luna, because I'm always doing my emails and doing my social media. I'm like, Luna, you still with me? Yeah, okay, just get through it. So try to be on board, be reactive to what your dog's showing you. Are they distracted? Are they slowing down? Have they kind of gone off on a tangent? Is it a sign of them saying, I don't want to go any further? And then be reflective. When you get home, have a think about it. How did that walk go? How far did you travel? What was the terrain like? What activities did you do on the walk? And how is the dog later that day and maybe first thing the following morning? So the PRR, proactive, reactive, reflective, it's kind of like a little step up from little and often, because little and often is kind of like, what does that mean? Yeah. Yes, there you go.
Yeah, totally. So first thing to do with fitness, warm up, right? That's a main thing. We don't want to basically say, pull them out of their bed from, or when say they wake up normally, but you don't want to basically say the dog is sleeping, and now all of a sudden we're going to do fitness. Same as we don't jump out of our beds and start running a 100-meter hurdle. That's then you're gonna get injured. So warm up is important. Now warm up for an older dog is a little bit different than warm up for a younger or for an adult dog. It's gonna be less vigorous. So warm up can just be depending on how your dog copes. It can be a 5-minute or 10-minute or 15-minute stroll. And then gradually, if the dog is capable to do that, you can increase the pace a little bit. And if they're capable to do that, you can even go into a little bit of a trot. If your dog is not able to do a trot, then you just take a little walk, especially with geriatric dogs, I can imagine. The very old ones you're just walking is a very good warm-up exercise. I would just make sure you start doing that. So don't do any fitness exercises on cold muscles.
Perfect. Do you ever do any manual therapy? Do you ever do any kind of effleurage, massage? Do you ever kind of...
Yeah, to be honest, I find that people, I know there's a certain, technique that you can do, massage technique to basically warm up and maybe, do massaging and effleuraging and stroking a little bit. But I do find personally, when I speak to the owners that come to me, they really don't have the time to start, they would rather get on with it than standing there and massaging their dog. Yeah. And I think massaging alone is definitely good, but if you have to choose between the two, I personally would rather do the exercise, the warm up as an exercise. Yeah.
Yeah. Perfect. Yeah. Okay, so we've done the warm up.
Yes.
And we're thinking about slow, incremental, building it, observant. How are they coping with it?
Yeah.
What kind of exercises did you want me to bring up the video?
You can bring up the video. Okay. There's 4 basic exercises, I believe, in the video, so I'll talk through these.
Okay, let's do that.
The video the video is with a young dog, because this is Jazz. This is my own dog, which by all means not she's only 2. But I mean that doesn't matter. It's the exercises are still the same for a senior dog. That was just the model that I had available.
So tell me, do you want me to press play?
No, hold on. I'll start. So front legs up is the first exercise, which is a really, really good one. So those are some very basic exercises I'm going to show you, which are actually easy to do at home, in your backyard or in your backyard or in your living room. Or we'll talk about this a little bit later. You can actually do it incorporated on walks as well. But front legs up, if you remember what we said before, is that the hind legs typically lose more muscle mass. So front legs up is what we ask ask the dog to put their front legs on an object, so that the weight actually travels towards their back. So if you want to, you can play it, and I'll talk over it.
Okay, let me do that.
There you go. So here, I always work with treats. So that's a separate point. We'll discuss it afterwards. So we basically ask the dog from themselves to put their front legs on a slightly raised object. With senior dogs, start very low, and then you can work up to a more slightly higher or more wobbly object, like I'm doing with this one. So the first one was quite low. This one is a balance pad, I think it's called. So that one is a little bit more difficult already. So again, important is that the dog steps up from themselves. We're not lifting them and putting them on there. They need to be aware what their body's doing. And then just keep running that. I think there's one more. I was just going to show. There's one more. I wanted to just show this. I took a very wobbly, like a donut almost, this is called, thing as well, to just show, there's different, and I'll talk about the equipment in a second. So you see how unstable this is. And then you basically, again, ask the dog to, this is more advanced already compared to this. Yeah. So you can stop that for a second.
Okay. Right. So let's just kind of talk about those. So definitely, guys, I think that it was brilliant that the dog stepped on it and wobbled off to demonstrate how difficult these are.
Exactly.
So if you are new to this, you are looking at 1 inch, 1.5 inches, very firm, very stable, very predictable.
Yeah.
And ideally, speak to your vet, speak to a physio, because I have no idea, Natalie has no idea what state your dog's in. So
no, of course not. Yeah.
This is here to inspire. It is definitely not you must do this. Okay.
No.
Please do get the right advice.
Yeah.
Okay.
So So what I was going to say, I mean, a lot of the fitness stuff is often done with equipment. People might have seen those colorful balls and peanuts and all that stuff. You don't have to do it with that. You can just do it with what I often tell people to do is to start with use something that's slightly raised. Like you can even take like an aerobic bench or a piece of plywood. Sofa cushions are very good as well, or just a regular pillow is very good. So something that is low meaning I would not go higher in the beginning than maybe their wrist to start with. So go low, and then of course make sure that the dog is able to have a nice position on it. If they're wobbling, if you don't want them to fall off, but I mean, if they can't stand on it properly, or they're trembling, or they're sitting down, it basically means that it's too difficult.
Yeah, so I think definitely they must do it out of choice. They must not be forced. Should not therefore need to be lifting them.
Yeah.
And if they choose to step away, you let them go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And treats, work with treats or food or whatever. So the food will actually, it's a motivator for the dog, and it's a reward. So all of this, and we didn't specifically talk about this, but all of this, because you're working with your dog, it's a very great mental, it's a mental exercise for the dogs, but it's a great bonding exercise as well, because they get, you do something with them that's beyond their walking around the block and maybe doing the same boring walk every day, because they can't go very far. And honestly, I have a couple of people who do senior fitness or some senior rehab with me, and just the fact that they do something with their dog above anything else that I do makes a huge difference. They say like, oh God, my dog has a new leash on us. And it's just because the fact that they do something and they reward their dog and they praise their dog, whether it be with food or voice.
Yeah, totally agree. And I think there's so many people that believe, push hard, it's got to be bigger and better. And actually, when you think of the time well spent, the interaction, just subtle efforts is going to have a bigger long-term impact than trying to go in hard. Please don't do that.
Yeah.
Got a great question here, actually. I'm going to bring this one up. It's not I'm ignoring everybody's questions. I'm going to come to them in the end, but this one's quite relevant. What do you do if your dog leans into you during the leg lift, still puts weight through the leg that you're lifting? So this is the next step up.
This is the next exercise. This is for the exercise that's coming now, right? So
should we do that then? Should we go there?
Yeah.
Okay, let's do that. Let's do.
So leg lifting is basically getting the dog to say hi or taking a front leg and alternating that. So that the dog basically have to shift their weights on the other 3 legs. So what I'm doing here with Jazz as well is you can see that I'm pulling the leg a little bit back and forth, and that's one of the things that you can actually do. Yeah, you can stop that there. That's one of the things you can. So leg lifting again is just getting them to. I would stick with the front legs. The hind legs might be a bit. That's more. You need to work with somebody to see if the hind legs are okay to lift, but. Leg lifting of the front legs is just getting them, either you take a leg or you ask them to say hi if they are able to do that, so that they shift the weight on their other 3 legs, and that there should ideally be as minimal as possible weight on the leg that you're holding in your hand. So if
they're pushing weight into you, what would you say?
Yeah, if they're pushing weight into you, you can try to see by a little bit moving their leg back and forth, or if that changes, because they will change their balance automatically. If they keep pushing their weight into you, it might be that there's a reason for it. It might be that the leg that you are holding is their dominant or their good leg, and that the leg that they're standing on is the one that they potentially have arthritis in, or that they have an issue with. So there might be that that there's actually a reason for that.
Yeah, and I'd definitely say with these videos, guys, A, it's a young dog. B, I hope you've noticed that the dog's had a good posture. So we're not just focusing on the front end, we're making sure that those back legs are nice and square, that good positioning. We've got a reasonably flat back. You don't do these exercises if they're a wonky spider in the background, okay? Because you're going to get nothing out of it. It's going to make things worse. Yeah. Another thing to think about is that stepping up onto a firm, predictable platform and then increasing into a little bit of a wobble, which might be just a sofa cushion, just a little bit of a wobble, that might precede the giving the paw. Okay, so don't just jump straight into giving paw. They might do it absolutely fine. But the last thing I want is dogs that are really off kilter going, I really want to give you a paw, but I'm just going to fall over. Please don't. And giving paw can be a centimetre off the ground. They don't have to bring it straight up to you. They can just shift weight and just give it to you very low lie. Okay. So again, less is more.
Yeah, and the giving a paw, you don't have to hold it for like a half a minute either, or stand there for like half an hour with a paw in your hand. Even a second or 2 seconds might be enough. And if that you feel you do it for a second, and then you feel that the dog is starting to shift the weight back in, you just put it back on the floor.
Yeah.
And that's it. So again, important for seniors as well. It's not the time, like the length of the exercise or how often you do the exercise, the repetitions, but it's when they do it. Even if it's just once or twice, that they do it in as good a form as possible.
Quality, not quantity.
Yeah,
definitely.
Exactly.
Cool. Do you want me to go on to the next one?
Yeah. Circle or figure eight, you can run that in the meantime, is basically getting your dog to walk in a circle. Circle left and a circle to the right. Treat in front of the nose is one way of doing it. It's not spinning around like a crazy maniac. It's walking in a controlled manner to the left and to the right. Because what it does is that it shifts the weight left and right of the body. So the bigger the circle, the easier the exercise. So if you do a circle of, say, 1 meter diameter, it's going to be an easier exercise than, for instance, what I'm doing now is to do very tight circles, or what they call a figure eight, circle left, circle right, it's an 8, where they do very tight circles. You can stop that again. Yeah.
Stop.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's what I love about that. That's front end, back end. You know, there's whole kind of balance and coordination, using your brain, etc.
Yeah.
And that kind of exercise can be done anywhere. So you can be out doing your dog walk, and you can be like, I'm just going to do a few circles. We're going to come back to it, but always having little landmarks on your walk and thinking, oh yeah, I'm by the steps, I'm just going to do a couple of circles, or oh yeah, I'm by the river, I'm just going to do, etc. Be really, really helpful.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. Do you want to go back 5 seconds?
Yeah.
On the video.
Yeah, let me do that.
So cavaletti is basically stepping over bars, right? Do you want to hold it maybe for a second?
Yeah.
I can show that a couple of times. So cavaletti is basically stepping over bars, right? Where then, as a result, the exercise from that one is that they have to balance while they're lifting the paws. And each leg is going to be flexed and extended when they lift their legs over the bars. Yeah. Again, this is not agility. This is no jumping exercise. It's not a speeding exercise. You want them to do it in a slow and controlled manner so that each leg moves separately. So, for instance, dogs that have issues with the hind legs, specifically when they're smaller, sometimes they bunny hop in the back. Yeah. So you want to make sure that there's no bunny hopping. If they do that, you want to reduce. So bunny hopping means that both of their hind legs move together over the bar. You want them to then slow down or put the bar lower so that they actually are able to take the bar, one leg at a time.
Yeah.
If needed, you put the bars on the floor.
I've got a story about this, and he won't mind me telling it. He won't be offended. So my lovely friend Tim Mayer, loved him. He invited me around to his house one day to watch Bertie, the black lab, do the cavaletti. So he'd gone online and he bought these cones and he bought these poles. And he was like, Hannah, come and watch this, come and watch this. It was a road crash. It was like a gymkhana pony. Just poles were going, the dog was bouncing across. It was like, no. And also what he'd done, because Bertie was a black lab, so a bigger dog, so he'd assumed that the height of the holes on the cones dictated what kind of size dog, so if it was a bigger dog, it was going to have to be a higher bar level. Yeah. And he'd done something else, which was he was so dedicated to his dog. He'd got styrofoam to keep the poles in place. So there's a styrofoam on the edge and end of each pole to stop them falling out the cones. And I was like, ah! So we basically went, right, let's take these poles and put them on the ground.
Yeah.
Let's start again. And I swear to God, within 3 walks, he had it nailed. Whereas before, it'd just been like a gymkhana pony on acid. It was bad. Yeah. So just take note, guys. Don't just buy things online and just think you can start doing that. All right? Make sure.
Yeah.
Cool.
Again, you put them on the floor. That's totally fine as well. You can topple those things over. The cones. You put them like this horizontally, and then the cones are much closer to the floor. So that's not an issue whatsoever.
That's
so
good.
again, the idea is that they step over it. What else is important? So the height of the cone, you adjust it to what your dog is capable to do.
Yep.
Definitely, I would say not go higher than the elbow, which is already very high. But I would keep it lower. We'll see in jazz in a second. I put them on 2 different heights to show you the difference. There you go.
Nice. That's nice.
One step at a time. You can use, I have 3 poles here because, that's the space that I had in front of the video. You can do it with 1 if you need to, or you can do 2 or, whatever. So this is a front view where the poles are 1 up higher to give you an idea of, and even you see there that she hit that one, of the movement that's going on in the legs, like the really flexing and extending of the, of all the
great videos.
Yeah.
Oh, I love it. I love it.
You can run. Can you run that one again? The last one.
Yeah, I can. Yeah, of course I can.
That's quite a bit. Cavaletti is such a great exercise. There's a couple more things to say. So, other things you can do as well.
You can space them apart, isn't it? Like shoulder to hip.
That's what I was going to say. So the farther apart, the easier. If the full dog with the 4 legs is able to stand in between, it's a little bit easier because then they do the front legs first and then the hind legs follow. If the cones are closer together, you do front legs and hind legs at the same time, which is already more difficult. Typically, the standard is kind of you measure the height of the withers, and then you use that as a distance between the poles. But I wouldn't be bothered too much about it. I would just see the further apart. If your dog fully fits in between the cones, it's a little bit easier. When you put them closer together, the exercise is more difficult.
Yeah, so the take-homes, definitely for Cavalettis, is higher is not necessarily better. Definitely start poles ground level.
Yeah.
Make sure they're quite wide apart and start narrowing them down with the intention for them to be shoulder and hip distance apart. Probably put 6 to 8 poles would be fair.
Yeah. 6 would already be good. I think 8 is already quite a lot. A lot of those poles are sold in stacks of 6.
6. There you go.
Yeah.
You can also have them on a slant. They don't have to be go from ground to height. You can actually also kind of make them slanty, but very, very slow progress. And you need to be listening to your dog. If your dog is not enjoying themselves, if their ears are back, their head's low, you can see that they're frustrated or anxious, or if they're choosing to kind of like not do it, they'd rather not, then just take heed of this, okay? What we really don't want is anybody going off, buying all the gear. What do they say? All the gear, no idea, and suddenly we have a disaster. So what the idea of tonight is to inspire people. It's not to give you a prescription. Because something that I really wanted to get across with the help of Nathalie is that as dogs get older, they don't need to slow down with our input. And I think there's a real big tendency that people go, oh, he's getting old now, I'll just leave him at home. Or, oh, he's getting older now, he doesn't do as much. It doesn't have to be that way. We can still have these amazing bonds with our dogs. We just have to adapt what we expect of them. And if anybody's done the camp, I'm going to do a blatant plug. We've got some owner courses out. Sorry, Nathalie, it's so rude. But selling the owner courses pays for CAM. So we have some owner courses out. They're £20 for the CAM Essentials, £40 for the CAM Comprehensive. But within those courses, we have what's called the CAM Expectation Pyramid. So there's all these different cubes. And at the top of this pyramid is what's called Rebuild. And Rebuild is rehab, fitness, all of these sort of things, but it's also rebuilding your relationship with your dog. It has to change. You still can have an amazing quality of life going out, doing stuff. You just need to change what you expect of them. Okay, so I was hoping that we could actually start talking about fitness on everyday exercise, because I know that I'm ridiculously busy. As I say, I've got my phone, I'm on social media, I'm emailing, etc. So finding 20 minutes, half an hour to do these exercises in the home when you're not flustered, stressed, time poor, which is always me. I do a lot of Luna's exercises out on the walk.
Yeah.
What would you say about that?
You can do that. You can totally do that. Like as you mentioned before, if you see a little a step or something raised on the walk, you can get your dog to ask to put the front legs on there. In the woods, I guess they can walk in between twigs, which is a bit of a cavaletti. The only thing what I would say with doing it outdoors is that, of course, the environment is less controlled. So you want to make sure it's safe. You don't want your dog to ask to put their front legs on a tree trunk that is full, or that's very slippery, and then have them slip off. So you just be aware of the environment, or if the twigs are very close together, get them so that they get stuck with their feet somewhere and then they get injured. So you can definitely do it, but just be aware that it's a less controlled environment, and in the setup that I've just shown, or when you would do it at the house or something similar.
Yeah, I think there's a case of where you just take a big spoonful of logic with you. So I'm quite lucky. I live where I've got grassland, I've got some gentle hill slopes, I've got some deep grass areas, I've got access to the beach. Sorry, everybody's going to hate me. And when I take my sister's dog out, who's very weak in the back end, so she had cervical disc disease, so she's got spondylomyopathy in her neck, so she's actually got quite weak back legs. We're just trying to always think of encouraging her to shift that weight back. Use it or lose it, love. So we'll do some gentle hill walk. We might go through the long grass, so she's being really encouraged to pick up. We might go on the beach for a very little amount of time, but it's a slightly shifting surface. It's going to take a lot more engagement. So think about the terrain that you're doing. And, the good thing about having these simple fitness exercises on your walk is, if you're like me, that you have quite a routine, you'll spot the place that you walk past and go, oh yeah, I should do that here. Oh yeah, we do that over there. Whereas I know that a lot of people are quite busy. Having a list of exercises to do on the fridge might be harder to get into your daily routine. So it doesn't have to be in the house. It doesn't have to be with equipment. You can make adaptations on this. But as I say, tonight was about inspiring you so that this whole population of senior dogs that we have out there aren't sitting at home in the bed going, they don't take me out anymore.
Exactly. As I said before, it's the mental aspect as well of it.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've now got to go and talk about activities that we think we should be very aware of as we're getting into our years. Yeah. This is where we turn out to be like police. I have so many people go, oh my God, Hannah. What sort of things would you say is less suitable for the senior dog?
Well, I think this one is not only for the senior dog, ball chucking. I think that's a big one that I want the conversation with any dog owner.
It's so difficult because, let's be honest, guys, the people that listen to Cam and the people that have been and guested on Cam, the lovely Nathalie, we're all of the same ilk. We've all seen it. We all experience it firsthand every day. So we could all sing from the same song sheet. People coming into the Cam, they're like, really? Why would that be that important? Just to recap, go and watch a Kathy Murphy live. Go and watch a Kathy Murphy live, because she's a neuroscientist vet, and she talks about what's happening in the brain when you have these high impact, high drive activities. And the neurochemicals that are involved in these activities are also pain relieving. So they are not going to feel the effects of what they're asking their physical self to do. So they might be braking and turning and twisting and landing. And at that time, it don't hurt. It don't hurt at all. Yeah. But later, that's when it happens, because those neurochemicals, they start to dissipate. It takes hours for them to fade away. And then the true manifestation of what they've done to their physical self can come through at that point. Yeah. So yes, I personally really limit the amount of ball throwing with Luna. I don't stop it completely, but she's warmed up. We're in a safe zone. I never use a ball chucker. I generally throw it along the ground. I'm not a high thrower at all. Don't like that. And I put a limit on it. It's 5 or 6 times, and it's generally a reward-based activity because she does love it. But then the ball goes away and the game is over. Yeah. So you can still do some stuff, but it's logical. What other things would you say that you would encourage people not to do in senior dogs?
Anything high impact, basically. So the ball throwing is, of course, one of them. Running, you probably have to start scaling down, I would say, for, again, depending on the dog. But I think that, running, especially when you're doing long distance and all that stuff, will probably not be ideal. It's too much impact on the joints, I would say. What else?
I've got a ditty. Can I add a ditty to that? Sorry. I've got a story about that. So this guy that I went to see when I was doing my mobile service, he had a lovely yellow lab, and he would run probably about 4 or 5 miles every single morning with his dog, and they'd done it religiously for like 8-10 years, and the dog could not cope with it because you could just see, looking at the dog, there's no way in the world that dog would be doing 4 or 5 miles. No. But he was like, well, he always comes to the door. We always go together. He wouldn't do that unless he was okay with it. I'm like, different. That's the expectation of the excitement of going out. Yeah. That dog potentially hasn't got the foresight to go, oh yeah, half a mile in yesterday, I was not enjoying myself. So just because they show willing, be sensible about it. This dog had quite obvious muscle wastage, a poor posture. There'd been the nails had been dragged, so you could see the skirting of the nails. So the dog obviously wasn't coping with that length of exercise. Yeah. What other things?
Dog sports, agility. I mean, this is maybe a tough one, but I guess at some point you need to retire your dog from dog sports. Agility, maybe do hoopers instead. That could be, and I think I guess again anything that's really high impact. Those things need to be reduced basically. But there's plenty of alternatives.
Yeah, and I think when talking about things like agility and flyball, I think there's been a real shift with the people that do these sports. They're generally pretty attuned to their dogs. So they will be picking up on the signs that their dogs aren't performing to the same degree. They might be dropping some seconds. They might be missing some weaves. They might not be making the touch points. So I would like to think they would naturally start thinking, actually, we're just going to tone this down and we're going to lower the jump height. We're going to reduce the expectations. But I think things like gun dogs, I think that's something that stands out a lot for me because it's quite seasonal. So quite a lot can change between the seasons. But then people are like, right, let's get back in the van. We're out there. Let's go get some pheasants. Yeah. And the dog's like, whoa, do you know a lot changed in the last 6 months?
Yeah.
So just think about those. I'd love it if people with gun dogs got their dogs checked out before a season, a full musculoskeletal assessment. I'd love it if people that go mountain biking with their dogs had a full physical assessment. Because I've seen a lot of broken dogs doing downhill mountain biking. But yes, so those kind of activities that are going to put a lot of stress, a lot of impact forces, a lot of torsional forces through those joints need to be considered. So this then brings us to the next point, which was warning signs. So so Rory the Rottweiler and his lovely owner has been seeing you for a while, and they've done pretty well, and they're starting to zoom ahead. They're starting to push. They wanted to do a bit more, but she starts seeing some warning signs. Now, what kind of warning signs do you think they would be? What should she be aware of?
It's going to be, as you mentioned, reluctancy to come along, reluctancy to do the exercise, whatever it is that she's doing. It might be walking off. It might be looking away from a certain area where you want the dog to do the exercise, turning away and just walking off and going to sit in a corner or to distance themselves. Trembling muscles might also be an exercise. You see their legs, especially the hind legs, they start quivering sometimes. Yes, of course, limping is but we're very much
stumbling, toe, catching a toe, just seeming to become a little bit weak and just lacking that pick me up. So a bit of a wobble. You can sometimes see it where they place badly and they just seem to have a little bit of drunkenness or something like that. Very subtle, but they can be the signs that you're going too much too soon. You need to ramp it back. Sports that are stepping away from the fitness and the controlled exercise, what kind of sports do you think would be good for a senior? So Rory the Rottweiler's mum's gone, okay, taking it on board, going to put it down, but I still want to do things with him.
Nose work. Anything nose work is very good. What do you call them? Mantrailing or scent work is very good because it's a very mental one. They still move as well. For those who are in agility, the hoopers aspect, which is the much less swimming. But of course, again with the swimming, you need to make sure that they don't overexert themselves. That you don't go swimming across the channel, so to speak.
Yeah, and jumping in ditches.
Water temperature you need to watch.
Yeah, you see a lot of people like the riverbed would be another thing to consider. So you've got a local river and you're like, oh yeah, we can take them down here. But there's a steep ditch to get down there, go through some nettles, then you have to step over some branches, then you have to get to the river's edge, and it's full of big slimy stones. So that's what they're racing across to get into the water. Think, guys, think, swimming, safe entry, safe exit, controlled, not too hard work, not too heavy currents, no shore breaks, no lobbing balls in the distance and expecting them to walk into the wave. That's not what we're talking about.
Yeah.
Gentle.
And don't swim your dog in freezing weather, because you also consider how the dog is going to exit. Is the dog going to be warm? Is it going to be in this ocean going to be cold water, if depending on where you live, like if it's freezing cold and afterwards you don't have something to dry them with or to keep them warm, that's going to be contraindicated as well then, because then their muscles will cool down too quickly and so that's another aspect you need to take into account.
Perfect. And that fits totally with my other point, keeping them warm, drying them off. It's cool. Well, the last thing that we had thought to talk about, having right at the beginning, I hope you guys who are still with us, we talked about that vet assessment and deciding whether a dog is physically fit or whether there is underlying issues. And what we did, we branched off with physically fit to talk about this fitness regime with Nathalie. We're now just going to very briefly mention the fact that fitness rehab type stuff is still very relevant for those unfit, so those with musculoskeletal problems. And bear in mind, most of the people that are listening to this are probably have arthritic dogs. This is your category, guys, okay? What Nathalie's just been introducing you to with fitness, it's a lot of similarities between that and rehab. So do you want to explain that for them?
So rehab is typically for the dogs that have, as I said, injuries, can be post-operative, but as well chronic, a lot of, arthritis, a lot of chronic issues. So a rehab practitioner will be working with you and with your specific dog, will give you a plan with your specific dog based on the specific issues that your dog has. So that we can it's probably going to be maybe going a little bit slower than on the fitness aspect. And it's really very tuned into your specific dog, and it will be revisited at every time you visit that rehab practitioner to see, okay, what have we done? Where do we stand? How is the dog doing? To then hopefully, work on his pain levels and his mobility and stuff like that.
Yeah, definitely. And I think, again, I'm saying it again and again, the intention with this live is to inspire people that older dogs do not need to sit around, killing time. They can still be active. We can still maintain them. We can still have great quality of life with them. But there is this belief that as the dogs get older, they should do less. Yes, their capabilities change, but they still can have an incredibly active life. The just expectations are less. Some things that I used to do with Holly, and I wish I had the video, I'll find it someday. I called it pickup sticks. So I'd get tree branches about this big, and I would have, say, 12 or 15. I'd throw them in the air and they'd land, a bit like that old game of pickup sticks.
Yeah.
And then I'd have her food, and I'd just sprinkle it in there. Mm-hmm. So her mealtime went from being like a 3-minute bowl session to a 20-minute, I'm going to walk around, I'm going to pick up and place, I'm going to lean, I'm going to bend, I'm going to twist. Low impact, moving, brain work. Yeah. And I would be on my laptop in the kitchen, looking out the kitchen window going, she's having a good time. I'm having a good time. So there's lots of stuff that you can do to keep your dogs active, and it will have a beneficial effect on them mentally, musculoskeletally, and physically. So do keep them active. And if that means having a vet check, seeing a physio, getting an understanding of where your baseline is and what your expectations can be and how long it's going to take you to get there, do it. It's money really well invested. We had a couple of questions. This one, here you go. Mental stimulation, Aqua Therapy program more suitable? I say it depends on the dog.
Yeah, I guess. Do you mean mental stimulation? Is mental stimulation better as with hydrotherapy? Does she mean, or?
No.
I think it depends on the dog again. Yeah.
Yeah, like Luna hates treadmill.
The water treadmill, you mean? Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
No, that's not mentally positively stimulating for her
Yeah.
at all. But when we go out swimming in the sea, loves it. So it depends. Mental stimulation comes in all different forms, and some dogs will absolutely adore Aqua Therapy, hydrotherapy. There was another question up here. We've done very well today. There hasn't been too many questions. Omega oils. So we've done a really great live with a girl called Charlie Gray. So definitely go and check out that live. Charlie Gray, it was only a couple of months ago, and you'll learn so much about omega-3s. But the universally accepted dose is 100 milligrams per kilogram of EPA and DHA. So that's where most people sit. But some people even talk of going as high as 300, but that's really likely to upset the guts, induce diarrhea, cause weight gain, etc., etc. But there is definitely a concern that people are underdosing omega-3s. So they're just giving the odd capsule, they're putting a pilchard in, but it's really not meeting that 100 mg per kg. So that's what we currently know. All righty. I don't know if there was more questions. Do get them in, guys, if you have got any questions. Got off track, Aqua Therapy. Okay. Aqua Therapy is okay. Yes. But in the right hands, isn't it, again?
Yeah. Yes. Again, hydrotherapy, I mean, you have qualified hydrotherapists, especially in the UK and all that stuff. So, yeah, definitely do it when you with a qualified hydrotherapist, I would say.
Yeah, definitely. And we did some really great hydrotherapy sessions with Barbara Holding. So there was, I think, three Facebook Lives with Barbara Holding. And something that she really got across very well is meeting the dog's expectations, not the owner expectations. So many dogs that go for hydrotherapy will do very, very little. They might even just stand there and just have standing exercises with the support of water. It might be a very slow paced walk for only 30 seconds, on 3 occasions in the underwater treadmill. That's massive for that dog's capabilities. So as owners, guys, just keep your expectations in check and work with your hydrotherapist. Cool. I love this comment. Thank you for making comments like this. Thanks, Debs. That's really kind. A number of these lives, what we try to do is create content for like canine professionals to also refer their clients to. So one of the ideas with these lives is that you guys can suggest that your clients or your friends or your family go and listen to them because they cover a topic that needed talking about. So thanks so much, Natalie. You've been an absolute pleasure again.
Here?
Yeah, it's nice to see you. I need to do my hostess thing again. Ready? And thank you to Pit Pat for sponsoring this Facebook Live. I honestly wouldn't put this up if I didn't believe in these things. I have an absolute promise to myself that I will not endorse things that I don't actually think have a place. And Pit Pat has been a really good addition to Luna, so I can watch what she's doing, resting, exercising, etc. And it's £39 one-off payment. It's attached to their collar. It's not a GPS device, so you're not going to be able to track where they go. It really is just looking at their activity levels, and you can get them in Cam Shop. And for everyone you buy, we get £5, I think. Cool. So there you go. We need to put your slide up. Let me stop that. Yeah. Stop screen, and I'm going to share. Here you go, because you've got a course out as well, haven't you?
I do have an online course out, so it's online, do it yourself at your own pace kind of course for learning how to massage your senior dog. So if you're interested to find out, the course talks about it's with videos again that explain massage techniques for senior dogs, and talks a little bit about arthritis and why massaging is good and for senior dogs and how it can help them be nimble and reduce their pain level and live them a happy life. So if you're interested, then I think those people are probably best off texting, maybe PMing me, or I guess I don't know if I can.
Well, what we can do? Can we put a link?
Yeah.
Is it on your website?
Yes, totally.
Cool. I will put it in the description and I'll put it in the feed as well, so that people can easily find that.
Yeah.
There you go. Well, guys, thank you so much. And thank you for all the lovely comments. Do you know what? It really does keep us going, because most of us are volunteers. Oh, we got one more question. Here you go. Just in time. What is your thought of trolleys? Good enrichment, or should better keep walks? I love trolleys.
I love them. I actually it came up a couple of times in my mind, but I didn't mention it in this specific talk. I think it's fantastic.
Yeah.
I know you had it for Holly, and I had it for Jake. And honestly, my opinion is that it gets them further away on their, maybe their old walks that they're not able to do anymore in distance-wise. And mine would get in and out, and he would very much indicate when he wants to get in and out. I love it. I think it's absolutely. And I have a couple of clients that use it once they got themselves over the idea of having a dog in a trolley, and they said best thing ever if I've only had it done a bit earlier. Yeah,
and I've got another ditty to add to that. So I did the South Downs Way with Holly when she was 14, 15 years old, and we did it over 8 days, and we camped, and it was hard because the trolley with the dog, with all the camping equipment, was 45 kilos. So pushing them up Beacon Hills was just, and I had to have the trolley tied to me. So if I slipped, I didn't let go of the trolley and, Holly going downhill at high speed. But what I will definitely say is that by the end of that 8 days, she was a different dog. She was seriously, by the fact that she could get in when she was tired and get out when she was able. So she was having little and often. And when I got home, my housemate said, I can't believe how different Holly is. She should be tired. You've been walking for 8 days. She was on top of the world. And I think it gives them that choice of getting in, getting out, and you can get to those destinations that they really want to go to. Yeah. So yes, rate them.
Go for it.
Wonderful. Right, guys, I'm back tomorrow. You've got too much of me this week, I'm afraid. And we're going to be talking about adolescent behavior tomorrow. So please tune in. It will be at 7 o'clock. And we will see you then. See you later, guys.
Bye, guys.